This is the Lightning Junkies podcast with your host, Chaz Cryptoson. On this episode of the podcast, we have Joe from Pollofeed. We talk about how he got into Bitcoin, Lightning, how he started on Pollofeed, chickens, and much more. This was a bit of a last-minute podcast, so I really appreciate Joe jumping on with me. Before we jump into the episode, I just wanted to remind everyone how you can contribute to the podcast. You can chip in monetarily with Bitcoin or Bitcoin over Lightning at crowdfund.lightningjunkies.net. You can tip me on tipping.me/@LNJunkies or btl.2/@LNJunkies. Beyond that, it would be great if you could subscribe on whatever podcast service you happen to use, let your friends know, and to leave a review. All this would greatly assist me in keeping the podcast going and reaching more listeners. With all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the episode. All right, I want to go ahead and welcome Joe to the Lightning Junkies podcast. How are you doing today, Joe?
Oh, good. Yeah, thanks for having me, and good to be here.
Absolutely. So I always like to start these podcasts with the very basic, how did you get into Bitcoin and how did that journey begin?
Yeah, for sure. So I started off as a software developer and just found interesting some of the tech, listened to a podcast with Naval and Nick Sabal, and that got me really interested in more blockchain in general, not so much Bitcoin, but I've been coming around the Bitcoin and Lightning more as I learn about the space.
So what particular part of blockchain kind of pulled you in initially?
I would say smart contract. I'm always just interested in just designing, I guess, things that we can interact with or, take away some human interactions, like automate some things. So I thought that was with Ethereum at first, and I even got a job in the space there, but quickly found out that, all the smart people and smart development is happening on Bitcoin.
Did you happen to make anything on Ethereum or, start any kind of projects over there?
Tried. Was a part of a web wallet over at ETC and was looking at a lot of smart contracts, but, there's no good dApp for smart contracts, I feel. There's just more developers than there are users in general in that space.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that one quite a bit. So yeah, you have 20 people and 100,000 devs, right?
Yeah, I guess they got some money. It's pretty cheap to just, buy some developers, fudge some numbers. There's a lot of numbers that, they said they can fake that market cap and, just a bunch of things.
Okay, so how did you kind of make your transition into Bitcoin and Lightning then?
Sure, yeah. It was actually the same person, Nick Sabal. So he tweeted just this random course about crypto investing with J.W. Weatherman. So I started to just get interested in that. I just took it on a whim and really just started going down the rabbit hole of what is money, what makes good money, and why Bitcoin is the best money we have available.
Okay, so do you want to give us a quick little, summary of that whole argument or that, what you learned there?
Sure, yeah. So I just learned that, money can only be one thing. That was a tough topic or thing to get around because, there's a lot of confusion in the space that, the three aspects of money, storage of value, medium exchange, and unit of account, that those can be split or broken up. And in fact, they can't, money transitions usually, from a storage value first, and then, to a medium exchange, and then finally to a unit of account where it's accepted everywhere. So I was just really confused about that for a really long time, just thinking that other things could serve that, or just seeing that there's many monies, what seems like around the world, but in fact, the US dollar is, the world's reserve currency right now. So just a lot of confusion about that, and being told accepting what money was at face value. So
all right, so that's kind of how you got into Bitcoin. How did you get into Lightning?
Yeah, so I think it was just on my own. Just found an interest in just wanted to I guess, just make some apps. I guess 100% not sure. I think I spun up a BTC pay server instance that helped me out a lot. Just, more interested in tech and Docker and everything. And then just started seeing some of the apps that some people from like Blockstream started putting out. And they just seemed to really spark my interest, I think, that I could just make, these applications where I could just transmit some value instantly too, and have that represent anything I want. So like in some apps, in Pollofeed it represents one feeding is like 1,000 satoshis, but you can have these represent anything. It's really a good accounting tool. I found that Lightning is like you can have it just represent even 1 million satoshi represent $1 or X unit, and just really go from there. So I think there's a lot of progress we made in there, and when people, I think, realize that.
All right. How did Pollofeed come into existence here?
Yeah, so it's changed quite a bit over time. I think I started it in the beginning of this year in January. First, I wanted almost just like a Twitter image of people paying, and then just post a couple pictures. But it just happened to me, just me being a little bored and interested too. I saw Elaine O. She posted a video of her feeding her own chickens with a little vending machine, and I just thought I could do the same. I've never done it before, control some hardware. So I just tried to get the hardware going and get a motor going at first. Started off with like a really crappy servo motor too, so that didn't really work, and found that I could just do that with a big rotisserie motor. So just piece by piece, I started putting it together, and found that it was still some challenges I had. Like a lot of it was with the location I was at. It's still out there. The middle of nowhere, the boonies, and with satellite internet. So I got to limit the frames per second that that it's broadcasting, so I wouldn't tie up the whole connection speed, and just trying to find a good way to present that to users. So at first I even had it like 15-second delay or something, where I'd even post it to like AWS and then send it off to people. But Lightning's, you want to see it happen in real time, so I figured I would just make it a little bit slower with the frame rate and have it in real time, so people can enjoy it that way.
Got it. Did you run into any kind of difficulties on the Lightning Network side that kind of slowed you down in making this a reality?
Yeah, so there was still a lot to learn from Lightning side, like what's a channel, how do I get incoming capacity. I wasn't too sure of that at first when I first started. Even I had some trouble, like me blowing up my node trying to back it up a couple times. So that was some lessons I learned the hard way, but it's definitely helped me out a lot more. I've got a much better grasp of payment channels and just the Lightning network in general.
Okay. Have you had a lot of users, a lot of people using this service? I definitely know that I've jumped on here multiple times to feed the chickens, just because it's just a fun little thing to do. It's like this instant gratification thing.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I found the user base has been pretty good. It really blew up when I first started, and and then it actually like crashed my app a couple times, probably because of some technical difficulties I was having on my end. But I've since made them a little bit better, and yeah, I've been seeing a good stream of people, but it's still a difficult thing is to balance everything that goes on, especially with the hardware and software. Like I want to make sure the feeder spins like it does. For most of the times, I still get some complaints that it doesn't feed all the time, but I can't. I don't want to overfeed the chickens. I don't want to underfeed them, and it's always like a work and balance because how many users I get a day. So I've got a couple scripts that'll go through and feed them if they're underfed, or just say they haven't been fed for a while. It tries to loosen up the feed, because sometimes that could get stuck. And yeah, just some of the biggest things I think were just the hardware and nature. Like squirrels have absolutely like ruined it for a couple days, or you know they just tear through the feeder. You know I've gone through at least 3 or 4 of them right now. I think I have a solution that seems to be working now, where I have this wire around the bottom of it and this metal plate on top, because once they figure out that they can get to something, they're not going to stop. And the chickens don't even seem to mind too. Like they let them in the cage. They don't mess with them. They mess with everything else that goes in the cage, but the squirrels, they don't. They'll even let them eat their food. So they've been my biggest enemy. And of course, being in Florida too, I had I guess ironically, lightning hit the like just around the house, and it just completely destroyed every single piece of equipment. So learning that, yeah, if you're gonna have something, make sure you have two, because if you have two, you have one. So I've got some backups in place, test it out, so I can just get it up and running without me really having to go in and see what's wrong with every single piece of equipment.
Gotcha. Something that I've heard from someone, I don't know who it was, but they said that the chickens were getting very fat because they were getting overfed. Is this true?
No, they haven't been like too much, or like maybe a couple days they've been overfed, but no, I don't think they're getting too fat. And if we were to get a lot of feedings, I'd probably just add like a couple more chickens just to make sure that wasn't it. But no, they're nice and plump and healthy. So
Fair enough. Let's take a quick tangent here. This is a lightning podcast, but hey, let's ask about the chickens here. How long have you had chickens?
So about 4 or 5 years now we've had chickens, and I just got to note, yeah, these are my parents' chickens too. So I just, they're not mine, but
Got it. So, but from the sounds of it, it sounds like you have a good hand in taking care of them, right?
oh yeah, for sure. I don't have a problem, picking them up or going in their pen. Like I've had to, feed them before, or just get a good appreciation for, you know, honestly, like how vicious they are. Like, if there's anything in that cage, it's food for them. Like I heard, like they're pretty much little bear dinosaurs. Like they're pretty brutal. And we even bought like 2 other chickens after the fact, maybe about 6 months ago. Well, we actually found them. One was in a tree near our house, and one, a little selkie, this guy was going to give away. So we put them in a separate pen at first, and we figured that we could, merge them in a little bit later. But, just realizing that they're half the size of the other chickens, they wouldn't have gotten like any food at all. Yeah, it's pretty funny. They've calmed down a lot since we've added the chicken feeder. But when that was first installed there, they would really like the alpha hen, we call her Big Black. She would always chase around the little one and make sure that she wouldn't get food. Like she was more interested in making sure the other one didn't get food than actually eating herself. I guess and they'd even like build like a fighting pit in the bottom of the right below the feeder. So we put like a piece of board on there so they couldn't dig under it, because it would also pool with water too, with rain. And it was especially bad in the summer. People feed it and it just go like right into that little pond. So they seem to calm down a lot now, because I think it's just I've got a more stable user base, and just been able to have those scripts that just dump some food in the morning for them. So they're not always screaming for food.
Got it. What do the parents think of this project?
Oh, they were all. They didn't have a problem with it from the beginning. They thought it was pretty funny, and I think they like it more and more now that they can. They see it's something that's working, and they really like that I'm pretty much paying for their food now. So I don't really make too much money. I just like give it back to to help feed them. But now they love it. So yeah, they go out and refeed it every morning. So they definitely don't have a problem with it. And I've had them, go in and try to fix some things when I was away. So yeah, they've been great. So it's helped me out a lot. It just gave me a lot of exposure too. So yeah, I just want to thank my parents for just letting me do it, because I honestly don't even know which other Lightning apps I would have, came up with that could even come close to the amount of like attention I've gotten from that. So and changed my life because I think I got my new job just because of the Pollofeed. So
Hey man, that's really cool. I mean, I have to say this is probably the most unique app in the entire space. Like I can't even think of anything across, all of crypto that's this sort of thing. There's other cool stuff out there, but I think this is probably the most unique for sure.
awesome. Yeah, I think it's a good example of just new applications that can be built with Lightning and showing that you can transmit like these little micropayments pretty much because there's no way I could accept I'm charging 8 cents now per feed. If you're gonna charge for like Stripe or something, it would cost me money like 30 cents or something like that in fees just to accept it. So everyone around the world can interact with it and I think it's pretty cool and looking forward to some other unique apps right now because there's just a lot of I mean there's great services like Fold, Bit Refill, a lot of great services are little tiny games, but nothing too entertainment wise I feel or like gamish. So
Do you plan to improve Poyo Feed at all?
yeah, I've gotten some feedback. People definitely want the better frame rate. I'm thinking of adding an option where you put in your email and then I'll just capture the video and then do what I did before, post it up to AWS, and then notify the user that you can watch this video at any time. You can come back to it, share it with your friends, and I think that'd be a good one because sometimes the low frame rate kind of gets to me. And then maybe just try to come up with a better motor. It spins most of the time, but it could definitely be improved upon there. But overall, I'm fairly happy with what it is, and I've gotten a lot of great help. Like someone's helped me made some logos because I'm not creative at all. There's no way I can make that. So everyone's been really helpful and it's been great.
Awesome. So I kind of wanted to take a step back here and kind of go more broad and talk about, Lightning and the Lightning ecosystem generally. Do you have any apps or services that you kind of like? I know you already mentioned like Fold and Bit Refill, but do you know of any other ones that that really stand out to you?
Just me personally use Bit Refill. Let's see. Sometimes I'll go to y'all's. That's been pretty nice. Find some new like I'll post a couple articles or read some. Just a lot of service based things. I've been loving. I guess not lightning based, but Lolly's always a good one. So you know earn some Bitcoin when I spend that. Like I'm not too the biggest like game or gambling person, but there's a lot of them out there. And they seem really good. So I've definitely tried the lightning spin before and the lightning roulette because they're pretty fun. And I'm most excited for is I'm working on this project now for called mathbot.com, and we're about to be the first application that's gonna incentivize kids to learn math and programming with Bitcoin and Lightning. So we're really close to pushing out our sponsorship functionality where you'll be able to sponsor a child through Bitcoin and Lightning, and they earn they earn per level. Every time they earn past a level they can earn, and then they can instantly withdraw with that. So I think that'll be a really good application once that's released here, hopefully by the end of the year, but we'll see because trying to do that right.
Got it. So, do you think that the youngins would be able to pick up Bitcoin and Lightning very easily?
So it's a challenge for everyone. It'd definitely help if their parents will know that more, and it's going to be on us too to even have a good like UI. And getting started with Lightning is another step than even just knowing what Bitcoin is. And if they're going to use it, it'll probably be with one of the just systems that that they don't have their own node or anything like that, because kids aren't going to be running their own Bitcoin Lightning nodes unless it seems like to be set up. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how our UI works with that and how it can really help onboard people, because that's the biggest problem in this whole Bitcoin space is just how do we onboard people in a good way. I don't think Lightning has really have a great solution for that yet. It still takes, even people don't know what payment channels are. They don't know. They hear it's instant usage, but a lot of times they have to wait a whole day before even sending Bitcoin to their open a channel. It takes some time. So there's definitely some great improvements that could be made, and some that already are. I guess like async with doing some of the Phoenix openings and zero comps and things like that. So yeah, there's still. I'm really interested, but yeah, it's definitely a tough challenge.
So, I mean, you're kind of already going into it, but maybe just to kind of make it more clear, like, what do you think are like the biggest UX challenges with using Lightning overall?
Yeah, I just think the learning of how Lightning works, what is the purpose of it? Because yeah, people are already confused about why they even need Bitcoin or why they need Lightning. At least here in the U.S. and everything. None of my coworkers like really understand it. I've still even tried to explain it, like, hey, I can accept these micropayments. It's the first time ever that I can actually make this happen, and show that instant private transactions can happen on Bitcoin. But it takes time, and it takes a couple different exposures to Bitcoin. Like still with me, it didn't take me reading the white paper both and then instantly I understand what Bitcoin is and everything. So it's just gonna take I think a lot of exposure and just seeing more and more use cases. Like that's why I love like how a lot of the services are coming out now to instantly onboard and to just get them up and running without being like very technical.
Got it. So yeah, I am definitely excited for those types of projects that kind of let people kind of skip over the base chain of Bitcoin a little bit. So like SparkSwap, the Zap Olympus project that's coming out sometime, and the Phoenix wallet that you had kind of mentioned there. So like that, and that kind of ties into my personal hypothesis that it might make sense to onboard people directly onto the Lightning Network and kind of skip over, Bitcoin to some extent just to kind of get people's feet wet. Do you have any kind of opinion about taking things in that particular path?
I think that'd be great, yeah, because I don't I don't think they're going to understand the difference, why Lightning sits on top of it or what it's doing. But if you just understand that, hey, I can get instant payments, that's good enough, But it's going to have to be, people aren't going to be running their own nodes, so they're mainly going to be interacting with their phones. We've got to come up with good ways to either, run full nodes on their phone, which I don't, really see that happening, or having a way for pretty much protocol changes on Lightning to where your node can be offline, and that's not really an issue because right now they still accept a lot of time that your node could be offline, but you don't know if people are committing old channel states, or it's a very risky thing. So you definitely want it an online full node wallet, so you're not losing your funds.
Have you been staying on top of the kind of future Lightning developments that are coming out from the various implementations?
Yeah, I'm trying to. There's a lot going on. I love that async. I'm a big Scala fan, so I love how they've gotten some a good seed round, so they can continue development. And was watching their talk on the Lightning conference, and they've got some really good ideas about how to improve the protocol, because that seems like that's the biggest thing holding us back right now, is just the rigidity of the protocol. And just experimenting, because they all three implementations, Claire C Lightning and LND, they all calculate fees differently. and how they're going to pay, go through these different routes. So there's no clear way. And, apparently there's ways that you can even DDoS the network, pretty much set your node as a low fees, connect to maybe 5, 30 channels, and then you can just like drop these payments, and then you'll pretty much, you can halt about, close to half or even 80% of all transactions that are going over the network. So it seems like a long way off before, it's been battle tested or good standards have come about.
Would you say that you have a favorite Lightning wallet currently?
I've been mainly using like BTC Pay server, so I've just tried LND and C Lightning. I'm interested in trying the Eclair out later, but there seems to be a lot of development on LND. Like you said, the Spark Swap is only for LND, and that happens to like a lot of the tech. It goes on LND first, and maybe C Lightning, after the fact. But it seems like that definitely LND is like the way to go if you're just looking to get the newest, the best and newest. So
just kind of looking forward a little bit, what do you see as being the future of the Lightning Network? I mean, we could either go, with what you might think is the ideal, or you could go with, what do you think actually might happen?
What I would like to happen, I guess, is, I like to think of these as just, micropayments that happen, from computer to computer, just automated. So, when I think of that, I'm thinking of things that you can just pay to a node. You don't have to get, an invoice and then pay that. Maybe also thinking that, you can have subscriptions, better, I guess, routing and path control, I guess, on your end. That's more, I guess, the implementations going to control that. But yeah, I just see them really just trying to limit the amount of human interaction and that goes on with that.
So, kind of along those same lines, do you see any big reason that the Lightning Network might fail and we might have to move to something else?
Yeah, I guess it's still very early. Like I said, these attacks that could happen of denying the network, it seems plausible. Just no one's really going about and doing it. Like Bitcoin could have been stopped in the very early stages, but was it worth their time and effort? And when it gets to a point where it's really usable, will you even be able to? So yeah, we're just really interested to see how that plays out. Just seeing how the protocol pretty much changes and adapts to allow us a bigger user base and to allow us, more security.
Okay. So I kind of wanted to take a further step back and maybe talk a little bit about Bitcoin in a kind of broad sense too. Do you spend a lot of time kind of looking at the developments on the Bitcoin side, or do you generally look at what's going on in Lightning only?
I've been more interested in Lightning. I know there's like really, really smart people in Bitcoin. Like I haven't gone through, and audited the Bitcoin core code just, for a lack of time. So I'm just interested in the technology and just how I can build things, because that's what I like to do. So, I've definitely gone through core, and, I love how you can, validate the whole U2XO set and everything. And, I definitely like playing around with the client and everything, but yeah, I haven't dug too much into the actual reviews of that.
Okay. So would you say then that there's anything in Bitcoin that's kind of exciting for you now that you really like?
So I've been hearing about these liquid side chains. I don't know too much about them. How I definitely want to look into that and just seeing more of these more like layer 2 solutions on top of Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is money first, it's technology second. So things aren't happening as fast, and don't need to be happening on Bitcoin. So I think that's what gradually keeps pushing me away, is just because I'm interested in interested in technology and just what we can build. So less so of the sound money part. And I think that's would have been a good thing to learn at first, is why we need a sound money. And I think Bitcoin just in general has really just opened me up to a lot of truths and have me questioning a lot of things. So Bitcoin has me thinking more big term than anything else in my life.
Well, let's kind of go with that then. Like, what's the vision that you see for Bitcoin, kind of short to long term, or wherever you want to put it?
Yeah. Well, what's great is Bitcoin doesn't have to do anything, and it'll just I think it'll succeed. It's already by far the best money that we have in the world, and once we start getting better ways to onboard more people, and they actually try it out, just realize like, hey, no one can stop me from spending this money, and it works. I can send it all the way around the world, and it's something, a scarce digital asset that you can actually, own. There's not many things you own, in this world. Like, you don't own your house, you don't own a lot of things. So it's just a very rare commodity that you can own. So I love it.
Do you think that there's any kind of inherent weakness to Bitcoin or the Lightning Network? Do you think there's any kind of attack vectors that the state might take or some other attacker might take to bring down Bitcoin/Lightning?
Yes, I mean, governments have all like they've tried to ban it, but it seems like Bitcoin seems to be anti-fragile. What they say, like, you pretty much it's hard to stop unless the whole global community is going to get together and pretty much say that we're going to ban, all the internet traffic to and from. But even that is, I don't know, if they can actually do that. So they can't even agree on anything. So, and especially more so with Lightning, it can definitely be stopped because it's in its earlier, stages to where Bitcoin could have been crushed when there was hardly any users, and maybe the same thing is true now of Lightning. But I think once these systems start getting a good foothold, there's just no turning back from the technology.
Do you think there's places in the world where there's a legitimate use case for Bitcoin today?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think all over the world's a legitimate use case for Bitcoin. It's it's going to be the tool that just frees everyone from human slavery that the governments put us through these monetary slavery systems. So, like I said, it's the only digital asset that you can actually own, and it's the money's actually in your control. You own the keys, and you can decide whatever you do with that. So I think everyone can use that, and but there's definitely more places in the world that obviously Venezuela, they don't want their they want to actually hold a stored value, so they these localized regions can value Bitcoin more, and are finding more use cases for it.
Do you think that we'll be able to develop the closed loop or circular economy anytime soon?
That'd be great. Yeah, I would love that. Just not too sure of when when that could actually be. Bitcoin's going on for 10 years now. Still seems like we're still a long way away from it becoming a closed loop, but it's definitely making great progress to becoming secure, globally money to use. That's what its mission is, and it's well on its way. So, it could take anywhere from next 15 years to next 100 years, and still in hindsight that'll seem very small.
And I think might be my last question here, but if you could snap your fingers and change Bitcoin or Lightning in any way that you saw fit, what would your magic wish be in order to improve things or make things more usable for people,
Sure.
etc.?
Yeah, just getting Bitcoin on and Lightning on just your mobile wallet, just having a good way to use that, whether that be better computing power from phones or just instant on ramps, just things that just make it a lot easier for people to use, because people aren't technical, they're not going to get into it, and they're already like happy with the system or don't know any better, the system that we have now, and just assume that money is just something that the government tells you. So I wish just more people were more open and just giving that a try.
All right, so I really appreciate that. Do you want to let all the listeners know how they can find you and Pollofeed?
Sure. Yeah, I have a Twitter account at Pollofeed, and obviously pollofeed.com. So yeah, feel free to hit me up on either of those, and we can stay in touch. That'd be great.
All right, Joe, I really appreciate you joining me on the Lightning Junkies podcast.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Boom. That was the 8th episode of the Lightning Junkies podcast. What did you think? I definitely think Pollofeed is one of the cooler apps in the Lightning network ecosystem. I definitely recommend for you to go try it out at pollofeed.com. Go feed some chickens and let Joe know what you think on his Twitter page. Just as a quick reminder that it would really help me if you were to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and possibly share this on any social media platform you think people might see this. Also, if you took anything away from this episode, I would really appreciate it if you chipped into my crowdfunding campaign. Once again, it's at crowdfund.lightningjunkies.net. You can also find the ways to tip me in the show notes. Just to let everyone know, I will be releasing a short retrospective of the Lightning Conference on Wednesday. This will be a solo episode without any podcast guests, so it will be a bit of an experiment for me. Be sure to listen to that and let me know what you think. For now, I'll see you on the Lightning Network.